Good evening and welcome. I am Amarachi Ubani. Tonight, President Muhammadu Buhari promises Nigeria a budget of diversification in 2016. Chairman of the Presidential Committee on Corruption confirms that the UK is seeking the extradition of former Governor of Bayelsa State, Alamieyeseigha. It is World Teachers' Day today and governors honor outstanding teachers. NATO urges Russia to end airstrikes in civilian designated areas in Syria.
And on business news tonight, Shell Nigeria begins oil production at its Banga North Phase 3 deepwater offshore facility.
On sports news tonight, Nigeria's Super Eagles commence preparations for international friendlies against Democratic Republic of Congo and Cameroon.
We begin tonight with the 2016 national budget. The president has promised to make it one that will include fresh policies and measures that will encourage the diversification of the Nigerian economy. In other words, the president is shifting the country's focus from the current dependence on oil and gas. President Muhammadu Buhari said this today in an audience with the president of the Movement of Entrepreneurs of France, MEDEF, and a delegation of French investors. In his words, our government came to office at a time when many people had abandoned the country's manufacturing, agricultural and mining sectors. We're doing our utmost best to encourage diversification into these sectors, which can employ a lot of people, and will welcome your support in this regard. End of quote. President Buhari also added that the country welcomes more French investors in its power sector to enable steady supply and reopen closed factories. We head to the courts now, where there have been conflicting reports on the appearance of the former Petroleum Minister Diezani Alison Madueke at the Westminster Magistrate Court in London today. At the Charing Cross Police Station in London, our correspondent Doris Okengwa did not see any sign of Diezani early this morning. She waited a few hours, several hours, before visiting the Magistrate Court without any trace of the former minister. But this afternoon, BBC correspondent Sam Piranti tweeted that he cited the former minister and her mother at the Magistrate Court early this morning. No details were given on whether she's been charged or when she's due to return to court. Mrs. Diezani Alison Madueke was arrested on Friday morning and was granted bail and was asked to return to court today.
It's a key word for Nigerians in diaspora. You know, we can't leave it up to government agencies and the police to actually go after politically exposed persons, take photographs of their homes in the UK, make your own private investigation. That is the only way we can bring people to justice. If we did wait for the police during the Ibori trial, Ibori wouldn't be in prison. It was a citizen in the UK who took photographs of his properties in the UK that started the investigation. So even being here, Nigerians being here is actually part of citizens' responsibility to investigate and make sure that things are done, justice is done for the people of Nigeria.
I'm very glad and happy that, you know, it seems like justice is going to get done. It's going to be done, you know, because she has been arrested here, not in Nigeria. So I believe that the judiciary here is much more, I have more confidence in them than if it was the judiciary in Nigeria. They'll be very fair here, and then justice will be done at the end of the day.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Meanwhile, Britain is digging up the money laundering case against former Bayelsa State Governor Alamieyeseigha. Reports say the British government is requesting the extradition of the former governor to London. The former president, so Goodluck Jonathan, granted Mr. Alamieyeseigha state pardon in March 2013. But for the British government, the former governor has an outstanding case of money laundering in the UK to answer to. The chairman of the Presidential Committee on Corruption, Professor Alamieyeseigha, was quoted as saying that the President Muhammadu Buhari-led government is prepared to assent to the request of the British government According to him, and I'm quoting here, the UK is in principle correct to be making such a request based on the fact that the crime was committed on British soil. However, when there is delay in trial as a result of time, there may be considerations on legal grounds so that the trial is not seen as oppressive. End of quote. He says the United Kingdom has every legal right to determine and demand for the extradition of the former governor of Bayelsa State. The former governor was facing money laundering charges, jumped bail in December 2005 from the United Kingdom and returned to Nigeria, and since then has refused to answer summons for trial to continue. To examine the case against the former governor of Bayelsa State, I'm being joined on the news at 10 by the chairman, Presidential Committee on Corruption, Professor Alamieyeseigha, who's joining us from his home in Lekki, and a senior lawyer and, of course, senior advocate of Nigeria, Anthony Idegbe, who is here with me in the studio. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us on the news at 10. But let's begin with Professor Alamieyeseigha. Well, I do understand he will be joining us later, but Mr. Idegbe, what do you make of the British government's requesting extradition for the former governor?
Well, under the law, limitation of action does not apply to criminal cases in most cases, and therefore the government of the United Kingdom has a right to seek for extradition since limitation does not apply. However, Nigeria has a robust judicial system, and it will have to go through the judicial process in Nigeria.
And do you think that it's really right for, well, the UK to be seeking extradition for a case that came up last in 2005, and the federal government of Nigeria granted pardon to this same person?
The case in Nigeria is different from the case in the UK. So the pardon which was granted was limited to the case in Nigeria. So the UK case is completely separate.
So what steps usually are taken, when this sort of thing happens? Yes, they've requested extradition, but what happens from here on?
Usually the Attorney General of the Federation will make an application to the court, usually the Federal High Court, and then the judge will determine whether extradition will be granted.
And in the case where extradition is granted?
The person would have to leave.
When offenses such as money laundering, as this one that we're looking at, are committed in a home state like in the UK, what are the options for trial for the accused?
Well, the UK has also a robust system which we inherited here in Nigeria, and there are many options, including the rights to counsel and the right to a hearing, which are offered under the UK law. So I expect that if the person is successfully extradited from Nigeria, the person will go through that process.
And can the Nigerian government also dig up this case? Can they revisit it, just like the UK is doing?
Well, where pardon has been granted in Nigeria, it may be difficult to revisit it. But of course, usually there could be other crimes or offenses that the Nigerian government could dig, but shouldn't be related to the specific one on which pardon has been granted.
Looking at the merits and the demerits of this case, how really do you think this will go?
I'm unable to make a judgment on the merits or demerits of the case because it is likely to go to court. It will be sub judice.
Well, because it does seem like since 2005, when the former governor was was pardoned by the former president, Goodluck Jonathan, it seems the UK has been digging up on this case and has found, these accusations against him, bringing these charges against him. Does that question the credibility, perhaps, of our own legal judicial system?
That's a difficult question, but actually, every system is different. I think that Nigeria has a very robust judicial system. I think it also the system has some challenges. I think other countries also, like the UK, they have a very good system. You can't make a determination as to whether there's an indictment on our system because there was a pardon. The concept of giving pardon is actually a borrowed concept from also the UK. At times, pardon is given and it has nothing to do with the judicial process, usually after somebody has been convicted. So the judicial process itself has done its job and convicted somebody then, but political discretion is given to the political authority to grant a pardon. So there are two different issues. One is political, the other is judicial.
Mr. Anthony Degwe, thank you so much for joining us on the News at 10. We're indeed sorry that Professor Alamieyeseigha could not speak with us, but we do hope he will be joining us in the course of the bulletin. But in part two, after the break, River State Governorship Tribunal calls more witnesses. That will be in a moment. Please join us again.